Hi everyone. Today we are going to talk about a recent editorial paper about GLP-1. We're going to explore a question that's been gaining a lot of traction. Could GLP-1 agonists, these drugs we know for treating obesity and diabetes, actually be the first true longevity drugs? This isn't just media hype, it's a serious hypothesis that's now being discussed at the highest levels of aging research.
So, what kicked this all off? The conversation was really ignited at a conference in Copenhagen, when scientific leaders from Novo Nordisk and Eli Lilly, the two main manufacturers of these drugs, put this idea forward. It signaled a potential shift. They're suggesting that these therapies might do more than just treat specific diseases. They could be targeting the fundamental process of aging itself.
Okay, so to properly evaluate a claim like that, we first need to establish a clear framework. What exactly do we mean when we use the term longevity drug?
This slide gives us a precise definition from the Longevity Biotechnology Association. You see, a longevity drug isn't just about extending life. It has to target a fundamental pathway of aging, and in doing so, it has to prevent multiple diseases at the same time. The key objective here is improving what's known as health span.
And this really gets to the heart of the distinction. Lifespan, of course, is the total number of years you live. Health span, though, is the period of that life spent in good health, free from chronic disease and disability. This is the central focus of modern gerotherapeutics, the science of targeting aging itself. A longer lifespan is often considered a secondary benefit of a healthier one.
All right, so how could a single drug even begin to target something as complex as aging? Well, to understand that, we have to look at the underlying biology. Decades of research have shown us that aging isn't just a random process of decline. It's driven by specific, identifiable molecular changes.
Scientists have categorized these molecular drivers into what are called the hallmarks of aging. This framework, which initially started with 9 hallmarks, has since been expanded. Today, the scientific community recognizes 14 interconnected processes that are considered the fundamental drivers of the aging process.
These hallmarks all interact in a complex web. They include things like damage to our DNA and epigenome, dysfunction in how our cells produce energy, the accumulation of inflammatory senescent cells, often called zombie cells, and a more general decline across our tissues and organ systems. A true longevity drug would need to intervene in one or more of these core processes.
You know, this field didn't just appear out of nowhere. It's built on some really foundational discoveries. We had key milestones in the 90s demonstrating that animal lifespan could be genetically altered. Then came Shinya Yamanaka's Nobel Prize-winning work showing that cellular age is actually reversible, or plastic. These findings fundamentally changed our view, establishing aging as a malleable biological process and laying the groundwork for therapeutic interventions.
So with that scientific backdrop, let's turn back to GLP-1s. What's the actual case for them? Why are these specific drugs being considered for this role? The answer really lies in their surprisingly broad impact on multiple diseases associated with aging.
In clinical trials with patients who have obesity or type 2 diabetes, GLP-1 agonists have shown benefits far beyond just controlling blood sugar and weight. We're seeing significant improvements in cardiovascular outcomes, protection against chronic kidney disease, positive effects on liver disease like MASH, and in some trials, even reductions in all-cause mortality. This kind of multi-system benefit is a key characteristic you'd look for in a potential longevity drug.
And this is a really critical point. One of the landmark trials found that only about a third of the observed cardiovascular benefits could be explained by weight loss alone. This is a crucial finding because it suggests GLP-1s have a more fundamental mechanism of action, something beyond just addressing the consequences of excess weight.
So that immediately raises the question, right? What's causing the other 2/3 of the benefit? Well, the leading hypotheses point toward powerful anti-inflammatory, immunomodulatory, and anti-fibrotic effects. And since we know that chronic, low-grade inflammation, what some call inflammaging, is itself a key hallmark of aging, this provides a very plausible biological mechanism for these broad benefits.
This whole idea is now facing a major test in some highly anticipated Phase 3 trials. The EVOKE and EVOKE Plus studies are evaluating the GLP-1 agonist semaglutide for early-stage Alzheimer's. And critically, these trials include many participants without diabetes. If the results are positive, it would provide very powerful support for the argument that these drugs have effects that address multiple facets of aging.
Now, as promising as all of this sounds, we have to be realistic. There are some significant hurdles to clear before GLP-1s could ever be considered a widespread gerotherapeutic. So let's turn to the challenges and the clinical realities.
So, what are the primary obstacles standing in the way? They really fall into three main buckets: the scientific, the practical, and the regulatory. First, there's a gap. The evidence we have is almost exclusively from high-risk populations. We simply don't have the data to know if these benefits extend to healthy individuals. Second, the practical issues are substantial. These are expensive drugs, they can have significant side effects, and we know that long-term adherence is a problem. And third, and this is perhaps the biggest hurdle of all, regulatory agencies like the FDA do not currently recognize aging as a disease indication, which means there's no formal approval pathway for a drug like this right now.
So while GLP-1s are facing these hurdles, it's important to remember they're just one part of a much bigger story. This whole field is accelerating. Let's broaden our perspective a bit and situate GLP-1s within the future of gerotherapeutics.
There are numerous other strategies being pursued. For instance, you've got researchers developing drugs that go directly after inflammation by targeting specific molecular pathways. Others are creating exerkines, molecules designed to mimic the anti-aging benefits of exercise. Then you have therapies targeting fibrosis and muscle wasting, which are both so central to frailty. GLP-1s are really just one piece of this rapidly evolving puzzle.
A major challenge for the whole field is how you even run a clinical trial for healthspan. A trial called TAME, which studied the diabetes drug metformin, pioneered a really innovative design for this. Instead of looking at just one disease outcome, it measured a composite endpoint, the time until a participant developed any major age-related disease, like heart disease, cancer, or dementia. This model is much better suited to testing drugs that aim to prevent multiple conditions at once. And this brings us to our final, and perhaps most critical question. The science is clearly shifting away from just treatment and moving towards prevention. The ultimate challenge isn't just scientific, it's systemic. For this new era of medicine to actually come to fruition, regulatory bodies will need to create new frameworks that can evaluate and approve drugs based on their ability to extend healthspan, to target not just a single disease, but the aging process that underlies them all.